Hi everyone, I'm Lasare.
And I'm Kaelion.
And we are the Alarian Foundation. So what is the Alarian Foundation? Actually, other than a multimedia outreach, it's us. It's the body of work that we have been about all the years of our lives and learning about our soul purpose individually and collectively. And we've come to understand it as a body of work that we've been developing for many, many lifetimes together. And in the center of these exciting, astonishing, challenging times that we live here on Earth, we are bringing together everything that we've been developing and offering it in support of humanity's awakening. We know that these are potent times, but we also know that we're here for these times. And we'd like to open up discussions with you all about how you're feeling, how you're perceiving what's going on here on Earth, and the greater context of what is happening here on a cosmic level. So let's go really big. I'll hand over to you to explain a bit more about the potency.
Yeah, I just wanted to also finish off on the Alarian. Is what we're trying to build is what we collectively call, it's a lattice of meaning. In other words, the works aren't just standalone works. They interrelate, they cohere, and they resonate together to form a greater work that stands in a more broad context. And the context of that meaning is directly addressing the times that we are living in, which I'm sure if you found this video, you are experiencing it, and that you have your own ideas about what that means. And so we have a multi-dimensional framework of all sorts of perspectives drawn from many quarters, which we are synthesizing together into what the Alarian Foundation stands for.
Because, of course, anyone who's paying attention to the various ways that the mysteries of life are expressed, be it religion, be it ascension teachings, the gene keys, astrology, the law of one, would notice that there is parallels and coherences to be found. If you just adjust your perspective and you adjust your language, you can see what each of them are pointing to. And it's been our life's work and passion to attune to the ones that we resonate to most, and then to see how they sit with each other and how they then create a container, as you said, a framework that allows us to really feel the benevolence of life and the trustworthiness of this process that we're involved in. And in my journey as a therapist, an energy worker, and a coach, I have found it of great value to be able to move dexterously through the various frameworks that I know to meet people individually where they're at. So it doesn't become a teaching that we're trying to convey, but more it's something that can be felt by each individual when they soften resistance to language.
Absolutely. And in that sense, there are two principal aspects which we work from. We are great believers and practitioners of the presence process of awakening to our deeper inner selves, to being more present, to letting go of the separate self. I'm sure you're familiar with that term itself. To meet our shadow material, our unintegrated aspects, on a daily basis.
With curiosity and humor where possible.
Exactly. Always needful in this. And the other aspect is that, to hold that presence practice, we believe that there needs to be a scaffold, a framework around that it more exemplifies and explains who we are, what's happening, what's going on, etc. Ken Wilber talks about one being the path of waking up, which is the presence practice. And the other one is the path of growing up, which is the scaffolding. It's the psychological development program. It's the way that the things that we believe in, the things that we follow, which hold us in the context of our awakening process.
Yeah, I just want to stop for a moment of humour there, because I'm sure you've also come across the stories of monks behaving badly. And gurus and those who've been put on a pedestal. And, this is the time we live in. This is simply a byproduct of human evolution as we each find our way to remember who we are, what our source is, and bringing compassionate awareness to the fragmented parts of ourselves is an inevitable stage of the journey. And I would also say it's something that we endeavour to practice, obviously for each other, but also for anyone that we perceive in the world acting out, because no matter how brilliant you are in one area of your life, if those hidden areas are not brought into awareness, and let's face it, who here is perfected, then it's going to act out. It's going to be seen. And if you're on a world stage, like some of these people I'm thinking of are, then it's easy for others to point the finger. But as soon as we are pointing the finger, we are indeed separating ourselves from ourselves, because, catchphrase here, there's only one of us.
Indeed. There is only one of us. Well, which leads us, I guess, to our first kind of really big description. And you'll hear us both using this word a great deal as we talk about the field. And what we're talking about here is wholeness itself, which is sometimes described as the field. We tend to move more from an understanding that the world is composed of separate objects, more towards an understanding that it's just one continuous, fluctuating, flowing field that appears to be three-dimensional, and it appears that there's distance, and it appears that there are separate objects. But that's just what the Buddha used to call the magical light show of consciousness flickering through us. And so we tend to move from this perspective of wholeness, completeness. And that is one of you could even say that as a kind of a scaffold in itself, but it's also a felt presence of the wholeness within inside of ourselves. So that's a fundamental that we tend to use in this process.
And a good segue for us to also talk about the law of one, which we have been students of in our own way for some years now. If you haven't heard of it, the law of one has been channeled by LL Research since the 1980s. If you are a follower of ascension type teachings and you're aware of the evolution of consciousness on Earth, this is a way of understanding what is happening, the inevitability of it, and the greater context within the universe. We're not alone, and we
can't be. If there's only wholeness here, we're never alone.
No, and we're certainly not the top of the pile of consciousness in the entire universe.
That's for sure.
Here on Earth. So Ra has been a wonderful source of a framework for understanding the evolution happening here on Earth, which we will discuss more in further videos to come. But for now, we really wanted to just introduce ourselves and also share about a piece that Kaelion has written, which very beautifully coheres a lot of this information together, bringing in known astrological influences that many people are very excited about, but are happening in this very month that we're in.
Just want to say we are not astrologers, though.
Yeah,
we understand and follow, but we are not astrologers ourselves. Though we do have some interpretations around it, which we're going to propose somewhat now.
But
Yes, there are two major astrological aspects that are arriving this month. The first is the annular solar eclipse in Aquarius on the 17th, which is Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, and Uranus is actually square to this solar eclipse as well. And then 3 days later, there is a conjunction between Saturn and Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries. Now, this apparently, according to some sources, hasn't happened for about 6,300 years. And when that last happened, humanity was moving from the nomadic communities into the agrarian age and the establishment of the city-states, the establishment of the marketplace, the establishment of surplus, the establishment of rules. And so this conjunction is the point at which those structures that we've all been living under for about 6.4 thousand years begin to break down. And Neptune is the dissolution of that single point itself. So these two together are really marking a threshold in the evolution of consciousness of humanity.
Right. It's absolutely massive, isn't it? So 6,000 years ago, how incredibly different life on Earth was and has been ever since. And finally, all of that energy has come full circle now to this point where we have reached probably the most separated, polarized way of life, where we're literally cutting off the barrel that we're sitting on Earth, creating mass destruction from our consumption. And yet in the midst of this darkest time, we have just the most beautiful brightness, as so many souls are saying, I choose something different from this, and I'm going to do the work, and I'm going to dig for my gems, and I'm going to bring forth the best of myself. And this is something that I've known to be happening for over 30 years, I've been participating in and witnessing in the communities around me. And so this astrological conjunction is basically saying, hey guys, you've been working a really long time, and here is the great reset.
Absolutely. So yeah, this is the holographic pointers written on the sky that's saying this is the point at which it's going to move much quicker, with more ferocity, because of the Aryan fire behind it. And the pace, the vitality, pace is going to pick up massively. So this is a great pointer for us. So this is the moment we've kind of, all of us who have been waiting for, is the walking for. Yes. Yeah. Is the acceleration of collectively what's going to happen here on Earth.
So some of the things you might notice as an indicator of this in your own life. You may notice your sense of choice coming up ever more lightly and quickly and dexterously, being able to manage your emotions, to make that choice out of drama into the inner world, into the greater love, the integrating something that felt jolted by relational engagements, but you can just weave it into your heart with a breath. Just taking a breath and feeling a coherence established more easily, because the very field that we are sharing together has become cleared by this great shift. And you may notice things manifesting more quickly for you. You think of seeing someone and you go down the street and there they are. You think of writing a book and suddenly you're talking to someone who says, I know a publisher who's looking for an author on that. So, exciting things to notice is more efficiency, more grace, more effectiveness, and clarity in the choices that you're making.
Totally correct. And one of the metaphors that I've used within the Arkful to kind of describe this is, I'm sure you're all familiar with The Lord of the Rings. And I'm sure you're all familiar with the ring itself. So what is the ring? If we translate that into our modern society, what is that ring? Well, that ring represents something in the shadow aspect of our collective psyche, which is coercion. It's control. It's fear. Dominance. It's fear. It's extraction. That's what the ring does. And I want to draw this parallel, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. You know that Sam and Frodo fight their way through all sorts of adventures and finally get to Mount Doom, where Frodo is supposed to throw the ring in. And of course, there's this battle between Frodo and Gollum, where Frodo actually doesn't do it. It's only Gollum and in his greed for the ring that actually leads to the destruction when he topples over the edge of the cliff and falls into the lava. Now, what I'm saying is that at the Saturn Neptune Conjunction on the 20th is the point at which the ring sits atop of the lava flow and then begins to melt. Because this is what the ring represents. This is the control system that we've all been living under, which is just going to literally dissolve at that point. So it's a very powerful moment. So if you're a fan of Lord of the Rings, which I am, you'll see this is the significance of this.
And if you're a fan of the Law of One, you're going to also recognize that this era that we're in is known in the Law of One as third density. And it's a time of polarity, as you've just described, where there is a sense of separation from what's needed, from source, from well-being, from abundance, from nourishment, from approval, from, worthiness. All of that is part of the conditions for the times that we've been born into. But each time we've loved ourselves home, each time we've forgiven another, it comes from the forgiveness of ourselves that we've been enacting. And as we become more settled back into the factuality of the oneness, that there never was any separation, it was only ever imagined, then greed falls away, then projection falls away, then grabbing falls away, then hunger, then self-doubt. And so all that is represented in that ring of darkness that we've been living under just is able to dissolve and ripple its effect across the earth plane. And that's what's so exciting about this particular month, but the next few years ahead, which another wonderful teacher, Richard Rudd, speaks about very clearly in his Gene Keys work as well, an explanation of the genealogical changes in humanity as each of us plays our part. Those of us who are awakened and working our way through the growing up processes, we become more coherent, we switch on, we activate each other, and the rippling across the DNA, the genetic pool of oneness comes into its fruition.
Yeah, and Richard states that I think it's February 27 next year, is the point at which in the collective human consciousness that gene key 55, which we all have, which is called victimization, which is the shadow aspect, that gene will mutate in the entire human population, and that will move from the shadow aspect to the siddhi aspect, which is freedom. So this is building to everything that we know is building. And of course, Gene Keys is just another framework that we can wrap around this stuff, so that we bring that into this, that everything's building to the point at which humanity stands up and moves from victimization into freedom, which is the gift. And there's a siddhi that he talks about, which again is called freedom, but it's like freedom to the power of freedom. And some people who perhaps done the work deeply and are deeply awakening may also move into the higher city state itself. But the collective is moving that way, and things will change. So these years, 25, already gone, obviously, 26 and 27, massive. These 3 years are the massive years of expansion, growth, evolution.
So other things to look out for, therefore, in ourselves is the inclination towards victimization. It's so nuanced. Oh my gosh, I've been really paying attention to this in the last couple of years. I have gene key 55 in my chart, and it's something that has been a strong journey for me to move out of feeling shocked, hurt, misunderstood, lost, in any way hurt or impinged upon by others. So I ask you to take a look at how you hold yourself. What's the story of you that you're living with? And just meet it with absolute love and curiosity and excitement. When you find an area where a little wisp of victim frequency moves through you, grab a cushion, wrap your arms around it and hug yourself and just say, all is well. All is well. The power is right here. And take some breaths into your heart, settle into your solar plexus, feel your back upon the bed or the chair, and just breathe yourself back to the surety of your wholeness, that right where you are, love is, power is, and choice is. And so as we meet ourselves with this determination, with this resolution, with this constant personal responsibility, we are strengthening the structure within ourselves, deepening coherence on every single level of our lives. And from this grows the feeling of our innate sovereignty, which is something many people are speaking about these days. And it's an exciting shift that's happening on Earth, that we are now seeing what Robert Moore spoke about. He said, and so will rise a forest of kings. And I add to this, queens. Sovereignty itself, as each one of us comes into alignment, cohered from heaven to earth to heaven, connected.
Yes, so that's a beautiful representation. So sovereignty from my perspective, our perspective, is that instead of listening to our family of origin, our culture, the news, social media, even our partners, is that we are directed from something deep within us, which doesn't have a voice as such, isn't the ego. It's a culmination of the great work that we've all been doing to heal ourselves, to meet our shadow aspects and to integrate. And as that work proceeds, the degree of sovereignty rises. And the beautiful setting is that as we move into the law of the one, the fourth density, positive, which is called the density of love of understanding, is that we are moving towards a unification of the planet itself. And that will require individuals who are sovereign. Now, I know this kind of sounds like a paradox, sovereignty and unity. No. Sovereignty is being directed from what is happening within the human collective psyche, and that is moving towards a unification. So yes, that's what we mean when we mention sovereignty.
So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you indeed.
And the Queen in me acknowledges the King and the Queen within you. And thank you, my love.
Right.
If you'd like to learn more about what we're up to, check us out on Substack. there will be many more discussions to come, and we will unpack some of this vast array of topics that we're bringing forth in this video in more specific detail, and offer, as it were, tips and tools and approaches and reminders and cuddles and, etheric hugs for all of you as we move through these ensuing months.
Yes, and we will put links down below for our connections to our Substack and to our books that you can purchase on Amazon. So links will be there, and we will see you again next time.
Bye-bye for now.
Bye-bye.